Are you struggling with chronic symptoms that you can't explain or get rid of, and nothing you've tried has worked? Or do you have symptoms all over your body, from maybe rashes to diarrhea to headaches, fatigue, or tinnitus, but no diet, doctor, or supplement you've tried has helped? Or do you have a history of estrogen dominance, hypothyroidism, Candida, SIBO, or toxic mold exposure, but even when you try to address these issues, you don't fully feel better? If so, this episode is for you. On today's episode, I'm diving into something called salicylate sensitivity. Salicylate sensitivity, or also called or known as salicylate intolerance, is an issue that someone can develop for a variety of reasons, but it is increasingly common in the chronically ill population. And unfortunately, it's often overlooked or forgotten about, basically that it exists, by both conventional and holistic practitioners. That's why in today's episode, I'm breaking down everything you need to know about salicylate sensitivity. I'm going to be going over salicylate sensitivity symptoms, how to test for salicylate sensitivity, what salicylates are, what food and medications are high in salicylates, causes of salicylate sensitivity, super important, and a natural treatment pathway to reverse your salicylate sensitivity. Salicylate sensitivity is real, but it doesn't have to be a permanent sensitivity. Yay! And today I'm going to show you exactly how to find and address your root causes of salicylate sensitivity. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly Podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. Okay, guys, salicylate sensitivity. We're over 300 episodes into this podcast, and I have never done a podcast episode on salicylate sensitivity. There's a couple reasons why. One is that we don't get a lot of emails, DMs, it's not something someone's asking me at my bus stop or something of oh, you're a gut health person? What is salicylate? People don't know about it. They don't think about it. So it's not been something I've been asked about a lot, puts it lower on the list. Another big reason though is that it is something that doesn't affect the vast majority of my clients, but it is, so I ignored it, but it needs to be addressed because for the clients it does affect. If you don't know how to look for it or know that it's possibly there or address it, it can be really, really, really hard to fully heal from the stuff you're going through. And there's a lot of crossovers and potential reasons that someone might have salicylate sensitivity. And so we've been talking about a lot of interesting topics that last week with meat and talking about, is meat good for you? And I talked about one of the benefits of meat is that it's low in a lot of ingredients that plant-based foods are irritating to people. Some of that's oxalates, which I have a whole other podcast episode on, but another one's salicylates. And when I mentioned it, I just thought, goodness, I need to finally have a salicylate sensitivity podcast episode because it is very relevant. It's very, this could be life-changing for somebody listening. And so I just want to give, that is my disclaimer, of why I haven't done it yet, but also if you're listening to this and you feel like a lot of your symptoms line up, because we're going to be talking about symptoms. I want you to be thinking about your own symptoms, but just know that you might not have salicylate sensitivity, even if there's a lot of overlap of symptoms that I'm going to discuss. And Don't just go and assume it, but you can definitely try a low salicylate diet after this episode if you feel like you just want to test it out and see what happens. So let's start with, what are salicylates? I mean, they're really pain in the butt, like, word to say. I feel proud of myself every time I say it. Like, I said that word and did not trip up. And I'm saying it a ton this episode. But salicylates, they're a type of phenol. And so phenol is spelled Phenol. It's a chemical compound which naturally occurs in most plants that we eat for food, but it has varying amounts. And the plant itself has salicylates in it to protect it against disease, insects, fungi, harmful bacteria. For most people, when we eat salicylates in our plants, aka it's not in meat, y'all, just another pro for meat. Like, if you're having issues, go listen to the meat episode. It's really fascinating. And I do share a lot of, like, a really great case study of someone who healed all of their chronic illnesses through eating meat. Like, just really amazing information over there if you've not already listened to it. But again, salicylates are in plants, so just in varying amounts. Some plants have a lot, some plants have a little, but meat's super safe. And animal products like eggs, most cheeses, things like that. So we usually don't have any issues. Like, the reason you probably haven't heard of salicylates is, like, they don't cause an issue for people because we have a process in our bodies that breaks down phenol compounds. The issue, and the reason someone can develop a salicylate sensitivity, is because their ability to break down phenol chemical compounds is been inhibited. There's something keeping them from breaking down phenols. So that's when you develop a sensitivity. So again, most of the time you can eat as many salicylate containing foods as you want, and no one's going to know the wiser. The issue is if that process is broken down for your body, and it's reversible. So please, if you're, like, listening to this and you're getting a pit in your stomach and you're like, oh my gosh, this might be me, it might be, but it's not permanent. So please, and that's, like, a big thing too, is that, like, one of the things people search the most, because I do a lot of research before I do episodes, and I'm trying to figure out, use different software that I have to look at what terms do people search related to the topic I'm about to go on. And for salicylate sensitivity, most of it's, like, food related, right? Because there's a low salicylate diet if you're going to go and try and pop this sucker off. But just please understand that is not the full solution, and it's definitely should not be permanent. Because what you want to be thinking about is, why is my body not breaking down phenols anymore? Got it? That's the beginning of the episode. All right. Next, symptoms of salicylate sensitivity. If you're like, how would I even know if I might have this? I currently don't have a really good litmus test of, like, oh man, when a client comes in and they have XYZ symptoms, I really get suspicious of salicylate sensitivity. I just don't. Like, I haven't gotten to that point where I can observe them. Even as a practitioner, I can observe somebody just off the bat with their symptoms. I get that way with mold. I'm like, oh wow, this sounds like a mold case. When there's and there's some crossover. If I, like, list some mold symptoms, like dizziness is a big one. Big. If someone has dizziness, that's not a salicylate sensitivity, but tinnitus is another one that makes me think of mold a lot, and tinnitus is in salicylate sensitivity. So, like, mold is just, I have a feel for it, but I'm going to read you a list of symptoms. Listen for yourself in it, and you'll at least know. So, salicylate sensitivity, when your body's not breaking down salicylates and they start building up in your body. In children, the most common symptoms are hyperactivity and behavioral issues. And this is based off of other practitioners and what we're observing. Hyperactivity and behavioral issues, which is super interesting, right? Like, you're going to see a child and you're not going to be like, oh, it's definitely the salicylates. And then for adults, fatigue and headaches, which is super vague. You know, it's like, okay, what is it? Like, headaches could be caused by a million things. So, but here's a more full list. So other symptoms you might be seeing: red cheeks and ears, dark circles under the eyes, irritability, aggression or defiant behavior, sleep issues, bedwetting. Super interesting, both for adults. And then you're like, not saying both for adults. For adults, it might be more so it has, like, urinary incontinence and bedwetting. It also might just be like night needing to pee a lot. Again, this is the least common cause of needing to pee a lot at night. The most common cause is, from that I see, is sodium deficiency, like a lot of it. And then the second most common is like adrenal dysfunction, because your adrenal glands produce a hormone that balances your body's basically management of water. Anyways, but like those are way more common. But yeah, one of your options, bedwetting, urinary incontinence, or needing to pee a lot at night, is going to be salicylate sensitivity, or basically the buildup of salicylates in someone's body. You can have swelling of hands, feet, eyelids, face, or lips, sore, itchy, or burning eyes, respiratory issues or asthma, persistent cough, sinusitis, diarrhea, headaches, poor concentration or memory loss, tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, fatigue, depression, stomach pain / nausea, and joint pain. A lot of other things can cause these symptoms. And so I don't base a salicylate sensitivity on symptoms at all. It's a butt of a diet to put yourself through. It takes a while to figure out if you're even going to get results. And so the primary thing I look at when I'm determining if I think someone is more likely to have salicylate sensitivity is on a test called the organic acids test. It's a specific marker. The marker that we're looking at it's just looks like a bunch of alphabet soup, but it's called 2-hydroxyhypuric acid. If it's elevated, it can also just be elevated from bacterial overgrowth, like SIBO, or aspartame intake, like the sweetener aspartame. It's a fake sweetener. So, but most of our clients are not eating any type of chemical sugars, like low calorie sugars, like aspartame. And then usually we just figure out if their GI bacteria is not elevated, we narrow down it to being salicylate sensitivity, the buildup of salicylates in their body, making their marker 2-hydroxyhypuric acid elevated. This marker is right now, if you like have an organic acids test by Mosaic Labs, or formerly Great Plains Labs, which is the lab we primarily rely on, is Mosaic Labs organic acids test. It's marker 61 right now. It might be different in the future. They do change like the exact markers, but it's towards the end of the report. So there's no, and actually I should have probably prefaced all of this by saying there's actually no salicylate sensitivity test like explicitly. So this is it's a way to gauge it, right? Because this elevated marker could be other things, right? It's not like this marker is the only marker for salicylate sensitivity. There actually is no marker. There's no testing. There's no way to test for this sensitivity. The kind of most accepted test is to go onto a low salicylate diet and then see if you feel any better. But the diet itself does not solve anything in terms of it reduces the salicylate overload, but it doesn't eliminate why there was the salicylate overload. So usually it's not full symptom remission in my experience. It's symptom management, meaning symptoms reduce, but you're not like fixing anything. And it also should not be a lifetime diet that anyone's on. It's just temporary to manage symptoms. So, and to reduce salicylate load in the body. But that's the marker that I look at because there's such a strong overlap of symptoms and with other things we work with, whether that's mold or C. diff or heavy metals or mineral deficiencies. So that's the testing that I recommend though, and where you can look. If you already have the lab, go check it out. Go look at it. Just know that if your 2-hydroxyhypuric acid is elevated, go check on the first page of your OAT to where the bacteria, just bacterial section, and make sure none of those markers are elevated. Because if they're elevated to the point of being red, then the most likely cause of 2-hydroxyhypuric acid being elevated is not salicylates. It's that bacterial overgrowth. You don't even have to have SIBO specifically. It's just bacterial overgrowth. All right. So how do people treat salicylic sensitivities? So number one, you want to reduce exposure in diet. And that's where you get a low salicylate diet. So for individuals who have poor sulfation, and sulfation is like a sister to methylation. It's like another branch of detoxification your body does. If you have poor sulfation, reducing the amount of salicylates in your diet can help with the amount of, like, it helps reduce the amount of sulfation your body needs to do, and so it can help all your symptoms. I'm literally actually reading something from educational piece of content I was given when I went through my FDN program. And it's like very clear, a low salicylate diet is not meant to be a lifetime diet. Salicylate foods are rich in nutrients, right? So this is meant to be a short-term or moderate-term diet with temporary restrictions to relieve burden on your body and alleviate symptoms. And typically after 3 to 12 months, once work is done to eliminate the actual causes of your gut dysbiosis and correct nutritional deficiencies and support your biochemical pathways that processes phenols, then salicylate or phenol foods should be better tolerated and get added back in. And that's what I've seen with my clients who come up with salicylate sensitivity. So there's a variety for anyone who wants to go and look into this, just information on the low salicylate diet. You can just type in low salicylate diet, but there are 2 different, I believe it's doctors, but people who've done research and then identified what foods are low salicylate. There are going to be a variety. Some people think some foods are low in salicylates and others do not. And it can have to do somehow how you prep it. We'll actually get a little bit in a moment here on prepping foods, but there's the Feingold diet, FEINGOLD diet, and fail-safe diet, which they are 2 just common diet options you could look into, or just search low salicylate diet. Foods that are high in salicylates. I get that no one's has perfect memory, but I just want to if you're just curious, am I eating a lot of them? So a lot of fruits just in general. So actually when I'm looking at our list of high, medium, low salicylates for fruit, literally you're thinking, what are my low salicylate fruits? Because that's the more common, apples that are specifically golden delicious and peeled, because the peel is a big part of where salicylates are. Remember, think the vegetable, the fruit, the food, or the plant is trying to protect itself. So peels have a high concentration of salicylates, bananas and pears that are peeled. So bananas specifically are low in salicylates, but they are high in other phenols. So just be careful with bananas. If you don't feel good on it, don't eat those either. But yeah, a lot of fruit's big. There's also a bunch of peanuts are high, almonds are high. So a low salicylate nut is cashews. You got a little bit more options with vegetables in terms of low salicylates. Carrots are low, celery's low, lettuce is low, potatoes are low if they're peeled and white specifically. Sweet potatoes don't need to be peeled, which is kind of interesting. Rutabaga, turnips, things you may not eat a lot, things you might eat a lot of. High salicylate for plants. Tomato sauce, just because of the tomatoes have been pulverized and concentrated. Spinach, zucchini, if it still has the peel, radish, cucumbers, pickles, peppers, both the bell and chili peppers. So that's an example. And then all meat is good, right? So if you imagine a lot of times when a client looks at a low salicylate diet, they feel overwhelmed. And I'm if you want to make things really simple, eat a lot of meat at every meal. Eat eggs for breakfast and eat, beef and chicken and steak and grass-fed bacon and pulled pork. Just eat a lot of meat. There are unfortunately a lot of herbs and spices that are considered high salicylate. So that honestly, for me personally, gets more annoying because you're going to end up eating just more plain meat in that side of things. Then it also says that there's a lot of beans and legumes that are low salicylate. So, but beans and legumes are high in other things. So they're, what is it? High FODMAP? Why am I blanking? Why does that not feel right? I did not look this in advance, but, so just be careful. There can be some foods that for different reasons you still don't want to eat. Maybe it showed up on a food sensitivity test. Maybe it's it's not indicated for other reasons, but your safe stuff is going to be meat, animal products, basically all cheese except for something called blue vine cheese, which is basically blue cheese. I don't know any other, I was blue vined cheese. I don't know how blue cheese is made, but that's what the internet said. I'm going to be honest. I know a lot, but I just don't know as much about, I don't dive into the food details in terms of all the terminology off the top of my head. I have so many other things memorized. So, but if you are dairy free, you can't have cow, there's still other animal products that are cheese and that you can eat. And I talk about it in episode 171 on this podcast, 3 dairy-free foods for creamy cheese, sauces, and pizza. So if you want to go check that out, go do that. I'll put the link in the show notes. But basically, the first thing you can do that's super helpful is just reduce salicylates in your diet. And remember, that's part of an actual test. Do you feel any improvement? One really important thing to know about salicylate sensitivity is there are medications that have salicylates that are high in phenols. So ibuprofen is high in salicylic acid, aspirin, a lot of pain medications, acne products. I think salicylic acid for like basically skin products have salicylic acid, and they'll even market it. This has salicylic acid. It's good for your skin. Yes, if you can process phenols. So just like be careful that you don't have salicylic acid that you're putting onto your skin or that you're taking with pain medications like ibuprofen, aspirin. So those are some other things. Some just other tips in terms of lowering your phenol intake. If you peel the fruit and vegetables, this decreases salicylates. For some, it can be enough that it makes it a low salicylate fruit or vegetable. For some, it only becomes a medium salicylate fruit or vegetable. And then anything that's vine or tree ripened product is naturally lower in salicylates, which is super interesting. So basically eating locally is going to be helpful because it means a lot of times fruit and vegetables have to be peeled before they ripen so that they can be transported and not be too ripe by the time they show up to your grocery store. So eating seasonally and eating local produce could generally help just with lowering salicylates. But that's in terms of reducing intake and exposure to salicylates. That can be super helpful. Next, you want to increase your ability to process the salicylate. So some really like aggressive, I don't know if you say aggressive, like not in a horrible way, but just like something very straightforward to do is an Epsom salt bath. I recommend for my clients, if it's an adult, 2 to 3 cups of Epsom salts in a full bath, or if you are only doing a foot bath for an adult, do a full cup. For children, we're usually looking at a half a cup if they're like elementary school age, and if they're super teeny, like toddler or younger, be looking at like a quarter cup for a foot bath. Or usually like it depends on how much water you have, because the water and the concentration level impacts everything. But sorry, I've just like have something in my throat. Okay. So for Epsom salts, just less for children. If it's like a full bath, usually you're going to be thinking around a cup, maybe even less if it's a small child, like toddler or younger. Another thing that could be helpful for processing salicylates is fish oil. So just some type of cod liver oil. It has a variety of the omegas, vitamin A, vitamin D. They all help your body process phenol. There's 2 supplements. They're supposed to help with phenol processing. I have not seen amazing results, but I just wanted to mention it to people. I mention it to clients so they can try it if they want, if they have salicylate sensitivity, which is called No Phenol by Houston Enzymes and Phenol Assist by Kirkman Labs. And these enzymes might help you break down phenols, but I'd say that unfortunately they're not like the most mind-blowing. What really makes the difference, what really, really, really makes the difference in salicylate sensitivity is this next part, is number 3, find and address your root causes. This should be the bulk of what you think about when you're thinking about your salicylate sensitivity, is what is my salicylate sensitivity telling me? What is it hinting at? What's the deeper thing it's hinting at? So there's a whole list of potential root causes. I've never had a client have all of them, right? It's usually going to be a mix. I'll tell you which ones I see the most here, which ones I see the least. And then I'll try to give you guys resources to dive deeper into each, just because many of these could like have their own podcast episodes, and many of them do. So I'll tell you what, I already have created podcast episodes on. But number 1, a big cause of salicylate sensitivity is micronutrient deficiencies. Magnesium is one of them. You need magnesium for proper functioning of something called the PST enzyme, which is what breaks down these phenols. Also, too much B6 without enough magnesium can suppress PST. So be careful with your B6 or B vitamin intake, just because sometimes there's like B vitamin complexes. You might not realize you're taking B6 or a large amount of it. You also need B12 to process phenols and sulfites. You also need, and B12 has really interesting implications because to absorb B12 properly, you need to have properly like a healthy stomach, meaning no H. pylori, sufficient, like you need to actually be able to produce stomach acid, because the same cell called a parietal cell that produces stomach acid also produces an enzyme called intrinsic factor that helps you absorb B12 properly. So it actually is functional in your body. So B12, you could be taking B12, but if you have H. pylori and you don't know it, or you have it, but you didn't do a strong enough protocol for it, or if you got rid of H. pylori or don't have it, but then you didn't rebuild your body's ability to make stomach acid, if you do any of that, then you're likely probably have low B12 levels, again, even if you take it, because you can't absorb it. So I talk all about low stomach acid in episode 298, basically why it's a most common root cause for acid reflux, constipation, and SIBO, and how to actually get rid of it. Go to episode 298. And then also, just so you guys know, my program, the Better Belly Blueprint, helps you get rid of low stomach acid, and through all the right steps in all the right order in a safe way, so that you don't have acid reflux, you can rebuild your stomach acid safely, you can get rid of H. pylori appropriately, test for it appropriately so you know if you have it or not. Really great stuff there. Another big mineral that you can be deficient in that can drive poor phenol breakdown is molybdenum deficiency. Fun fact, I had never heard of molybdenum before I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, what I am now. And it was like the weirdest, it's another one of those weird words. There's a Y in it, salicylates, molybdenum, but it is a powerhouse mineral. It's amazing. It has really cool jobs it does, and it impacts, I'd actually say molybdenum deficiency is something I see in like at least 25% of our clients. Even I see it more often than salicylate sensitivity. So it's like I see molybdenum deficiency without there being salicylate sensitivity. But if there's salicylate sensitivity, there's almost always molybdenum deficiency. And I don't have a specific episode on it, but I do talk about molybdenum. One of the things it helps the most with is help you balance and detox excess copper in your body. So a lot of our clients with copper toxicity, which is around 25% of our clients have copper toxicity, they are molybdenum deficient. So go listen to episode 159 on my copper toxicity episode. Super great episode. And it'll be in the show notes. And then lastly, low vitamin D. And I know people are like, well, I take low vitamin D. I know about low vitamin D. My big shtick with low vitamin D is that it cannot be used properly if your calcium isn't balanced in your body. And one of the big common things we see with our chronically ill clients is they have calcium coming out of their bones and teeth, and it's entering into their soft tissue. And it doesn't show up as high calcium in their blood work. Sometimes it actually shows up as low. It shows up as high calcium in a lab called the HTMA. It's a hair tissue sample. Your doctor's not going to look for it. They don't do HTMAs. They won't even acknowledge that high calcium in hair tissue is even possible. They acknowledge hypercalcemia as a thing, but they look for totally different types of symptoms. They don't acknowledge it. But what happens is when you have calcium that you're not properly absorbing and keeping in your bones and teeth, not only, of course, is that bad for your bones and teeth, but elevated calcium accelerates the inactivation of vitamin D in the liver, so that you can't then make vitamin D a active form to be used. Very interesting. So I drop more information on high calcium on an HTMA in episode 289, how a calcium shell drives fatigue, anxiety, and IBS. And I'll put that in the show notes. So those are 3 great episodes on all these different nutrient deficiencies. You unfortunately cannot fix any of them. Well, actually, molybdenum, you can take molybdenum pretty safely, but you want to be careful. If you take molybdenum, you could cue a copper detox if you have toxic copper, hidden copper toxicity. So I wouldn't really, for any of these, just take a supplement to try to fix all of it directly. Don't just try to take stomach acid or take B12. You need to actually look at the deeper root causes and work on them. I'm not trying to hold information back. There's just a lot of layers. And I take in my program, the Better Belly Blueprint, we actually have a process that takes you through every single step in the right order. It makes it super simple. Like does not need to be like rocket science. But that's one big thing, micronutrient deficiencies, a variety of them, right? So another one that can cause issues is if you have low sulfate in your body. So we have a process called sulfation. It's a sister to methylation. Methylation and sulfation are types of detox pathways in the body. And you need sulfation for salicylate/phenol processing. And so if you have insufficient sulfate, there can be a variety of reasons why. One of them might be lack of amino acids in your diet. So amino acids, that'd be protein, or poor breaking down of protein, like low stomach acid, low bile, poor absorption of that protein and amino acids, inhibited conversion of amino acids into the sulfate form, low sulfur intake, or sulfur sensitivity where you can't process your sulfur. That is next week's episode, because that one is even more of a bear. I say salicylate sensitivity feels easy to address compared to sulfur sensitivity. And sulfur is good for us. We actually need sulfur to survive, which is why it wreaks so much havoc on our bodies if someone has sulfur sensitivity. Pathogens in the gut, though, can also impact and reduce sulfation. So again, we just see clients, they massively improve once we find all the pathogens in their gut. And then also poor methylation, which you can improve methylation fairly easily. Even if you have the MTHFR gene mutation, there's nothing that can fully stop you from methylating. It's just knowing how to support it. Next, we have low PST enzyme activity. So there's no good test that I have for this that I know of, but it is PST is the enzyme that actually breaks down phenols, and it happens in phase 2 liver detoxification. If this enzyme isn't working super great, then it makes it hard to get rid of phenols. And interestingly enough, just side note, research has shown that PST enzyme is underactive in the majority of autistic children. So there is a really big issue, particularly in the autism community, which is not what we specialize in. But if you know someone with autism, have a child, it's possible maybe you have salicylate sensitivity without autism, but that you pass down some genes that also make it hard for your child to break down salicylates, and it can really drive a lot of autism symptoms. So like I'd work with someone who specializes in salicylates, autism, children, like that combination. But just so you know, you can have it in like both the mother and the child, even if only one of them is autistic or diagnosed autistic. But yeah, PST is underactive in the majority of autistic children. Super, super interesting. But that's actually the least common one, like that I think is what's going on. But sometimes if I think that that's an issue, a lot of times we'll see poor phase 2 detoxification markers in their Dutch test. So, and we teach our clients how to identify what markers are phase 2 detoxification and how to support it. And that often, if that's an issue, we'll teach them how to support their phase 2 detoxification in our program. And then we'll actually see that their salicylate processing seems to be better. So you have that. Another one's yeast and bacterial overgrowth. This is a big one. This is so big. So yeast and bacterial, think Candida is a yeast, Candida overgrowth. By the way, though, Candida isn't a root cause. Not to throw a loop for you, but I have a whole podcast episode on it, episode 301. And you'll go and listen and learn why Candida is not a root cause and what to do instead to address it and what a Candida overgrowth really means is going on. But yeah, if you have somebody with a Candida overgrowth and it's one of the things driving salicylate sensitivity, you have to look deeper than the Candida itself. Mold exposure is also a yeast issue. So that could be something driving some salicylate sensitivity. And then bacterial overgrowth, think SIBO. And I do have a SIBO episode. I don't think I put a link to it yet. So I'll put a SIBO link in here so you guys can go listen to SIBO, because SIBO is also not a root cause. Neither Candida nor SIBO are root causes. The body can self-manufacture it. And so it's why is the body manufacturing SIBO or Candida? Fun fact, blow your mind, hopefully. Go be free of your Candida and SIBO by learning how to really get rid of them. All right, 2 or 3 more things. Low thyroid function. I'd say this is like adjacent. It's not usually like the key driver, but it might be something someone's dealing with. Low thyroid can cause more salicylate intolerance, but salicylates can also worsen thyroid function. So it's like a little bit of a loop, and that's why I'd say I can't just go in and be like, I'm just, if somebody just goes and gets thyroid medication, their salicylate sensitivity goes away. Not usually. It's inhibiting thyroid function, and so simply taking medication doesn't make it better, unfortunately. But I actually have a whole podcast episode on hypothyroidism and how it's not a root cause. Also controversial, also true. Go check it out. Episode 300. We have it in the show notes. And then another one is estrogen excess or estrogen dominance. Estrogen requires sulfation. And so it draws a lot of the body's sulfation efforts towards detoxing the estrogen. And then you're not detoxing the phenols. I do see this a lot more commonly. We'll have someone who has all these symptoms of estrogen dominance, and then we look at their testing, look at their symptoms, and they also look like they have salicylate sensitivity. So we see these two commonly. So it's the estrogen dominance is common, yeast and bacterial overgrowth, micronutrient deficiencies. Those are like our three big ones. And I talk more about estrogen dominance in episode 302. And the real root causes, like why does someone get high estrogen? And I go into that in episode 302. Linked in the show notes. The last one is genetic mutations. And I currently believe that none of our clients they're at least not if they have genetic mutations, it's not to the point that they can't like overcome sulfur or salicylate sensitivity. So, but mutations in any of the SULT1A family, they help produce PST enzymes. So those are the genes, SULT1A. And then mutations in CBS and SUOX can also affect basically how you're processing sulfites, and you need to be able to get sulfur and phenols together to break them down. All right, which is actually PST stands for, and I wanted to tell you guys this, if it helps put it together. I just want to get it right, so I'm going and pulling up the word. It's PST, it's phenol... where is it? I thought I had it on one of these pages. Yeah, phenol sulfotransferase. Phenol sulfotransferase. So the phenol is the chemical we're trying to break down. Sulfo is sulfur or sulfation, and transferase. So you need both processes to get rid of this thing. Anything? Oh, so one thing I wanted to mention here so yes, genetic mutations, I've never seen anyone not be able to get rid of salicylate sensitivity. However, there is something called a salicylate allergy that is mediated by an entire, sensitivity. This is about just having too much in your body and your body not being able to process it. And allergy is like IgE, an immune reaction. Some people have allergies. If you have an allergy, hopefully the doctor's already found it before. It's usually a lot more severe and life-threatening. There might be anaphylaxis involved. So if you have an allergy, this episode is not relevant to you. So hopefully you haven't listened to this whole thing thinking you can reverse your allergy. If someone's used the word allergy with you, if you know it's IgE mediated, if you're not sure, go check with your doctor. That's permanent. But a sensitivity or an intolerance, these are situationally derived and they can go away. So I've talked about how our program, the Better Belly Blueprint, addresses all of this a little bit. But if you want to see more how it works, like how our process, what are the steps involved? What are some of the labs we're doing inside of it? What's involved in what does the Better Belly Blueprint process look like? Why is it different than other programs you might have tried or looked at before? Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. It goes through everything in there on how the Better Belly Blueprint process works and how it will help you find your root causes and address them, how it's different than other programs. And honestly, if you're still in learning mode, go and listen to all the podcast episodes I gave you, or at least some of them, ones that feel relevant to you. There were a lot. And learn more about it so that you are not going and running after whether it's supplements or practitioners who are promising things, but they're not going to fully address low stomach acid, or they don't know how to address copper toxicity. You can go and arm yourself with that information so you can go and avoid practitioners who might not do a good job, or programs that don't include the right ingredients inside of it to get your results. So I hope that helps everybody. Stick around for sulfur sensitivity because there is a strong overlap in sulfur sensitivity driving salicylate sensitivity. I know it's not quite listed here, but it did say low sulfate. And you can sometimes have low sulfate because of a sulfur sensitivity problem, which is adds fuel to the fire. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your podcast host, or if you like getting emails and reminders of new episodes coming out, go to betterbellytherapies.com/subscribe, and we will send you emails every week of new episodes that come out. So that's it. I hope you guys had a great time listening. Hope this helps people, gives you hope, gives you clarity, gives you new ideas and fresh ways of thinking about things, because you can get better. You are not stuck. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode. Bye. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening, you can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of, and you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.